Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Recruit Military Live, a continuing series of live broadcasts covering all things military transition, veteran employment, mil-spouse employment, and much, much more. My name is Ms. Lucas Connolly. I almost forgot my own name there. Retired U.S. Army officer and former TAP program manager, here to share with you the ins and outs of making the move into the civilian world of employment. If you're in search of meaningful employment after your military service, well, you're in the right place. Please visit rmvets.com/live to learn more. Now, having the skills to succeed in a military profession doesn't necessarily translate into the civilian workforce. Many transition specialists, counselors, authors, they describe an experience gap that many transitioning service members need to step over or to bridge over in some way. So today we're going to be talking about DOD SkillBridge programs with a genuine subject matter expert. Our guest today started his military career way back in 1999. As a freshly minted young sonar technician in the United States Navy. He served for over 20 years, developing expertise in sonar technology, analytics, and tactics, along with anti-terrorism, force protection, and training program management. He retired from the Navy in 2019 and went on to become the DOD SkillBridge Program Senior Advisor at General Dynamics Information Technology. That's a long title. But to you LinkedIn addicts out there, you probably know him best as the Chief Information Officer and Group Administrator on LinkedIn's DOD SkillBridge Community of Practice. Ladies and gentlemen, the one and only Mr. Dave Schantz.
Hey, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Thanks for having me, Lucas. Good to be here.
Dave, it's great to have you here, and I'm glad you could make some time to be on the show.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
All right, now that everybody out there knows who we are, we want to know who you are. Hit that chat window. Let us know where you're watching from, what your status is. Active duty, guard, reserve, retired, and transitioning, fresh to the force, mil-spouse, caregiver, or some other status that I haven't thought of yet. If you've got questions, comments, issues, concerns, or just plain inter-service rivalry, hit the chat window. We'd love to hear it, and if time allows, we will get to your questions. Dave, before we get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You know, your military service, your transition to civilian life. What is the Dave Schantz story?
Yeah, thank you. Like I said, I joined the Navy right out of high school. August of '99, I left for boot camp. I had a really rough time. I spent 20 and a half years either in San Diego or Hawaii, so it was a really tough time for me.
You've never been to Fort Sill, Oklahoma, or Fort Polk, so I don't want to hear about it.
Did 20 and a half years as a sonar technician in ATFP in the ATFP space. And when I was getting ready to retire in when was it? It was 2019. I decided to drop the retirement papers and heard about SkillBridge. Learned about it. Thought it was incredible and thought it was a great way for me to bridge my knowledge from in the Navy to civilian employment. Did my own research, learned about the program. The instruction is not very long. The Navy instruction is not very long. Submitted my paperwork and came on as a senior training specialist with GDIT. Did a full 6-month time with them. Loved every minute of it. I was able to shop around and kind of work with different offices here in San Diego, learning the same job from different perspectives with different team members. And I thought that was widely beneficial to both me and the company. They offered me a full-time job. So I signed on, stayed on for about a year. And during that year, I never stopped talking about SkillBridge. I certainly don't know all of the transitioning programs that are available to service members, but I couldn't find a single one that was equal to or better than SkillBridge. So I became the group administrator for the DOD SkillBridge Community of Practice LinkedIn group. I've helped thousands of service members land the opportunity of their choosing. I've helped tons of people learn about the program. And I spent about a year in my role, and GDIT decided to promote me. And I became the SkillBridge program lead here at GDIT, and I've been doing it for about 18, 20 months now.
Sounds like an absolute transition and SkillBridge success story if I ever heard one.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many service members are like, I want to do what you do. They just see this, right? We get out, and some of us just have a calling to, want to continue service and want to help our transitioning brothers and sisters. So I'm very fortunate for, with what I do and with who I'm doing it with. And I love my job. I do SkillBridge morning, noon, and night, and I absolutely love what I do.
Awesome. And it's hilarious because there are people out there And not every branch of service has bright a spotlight on that program as others. And not every command team is as supporting as they can be. Now, many times I talk to transitioning service members and they just feel overwhelmed. Perhaps they've been in since they were 18. They've never had a job interview. They've never had to decide really once they signed up what they wanted to do. Their career path is laid out for them. The next assignment, the next job, the next promotion. It's all pretty much self-determined. What do you say to the transitioning service members that are just ready to throw their hands in the air and say, I don't know what to do. I have no idea. I don't know what left, right, center, project management, manufacturing, supervision, criminal justice, law enforcement, contract. I don't know, Dave. I don't even know where to begin.
Yeah, so for those folks, that's why it's so important for service members to start their transition early, right? I just met a gentleman yesterday. He's 4 years out from being eligible to retire, and he's starting his transition process now. Smart. A lot of service members I talk to, they're about 1 to 2 years out. The folks that I'm really worried about are those that are like, okay, I have 6 months left in the military. I have no idea what I want to do, but I know I want to do SkillBridge. You've got to lean into your happiness. You've got to figure out what makes you happy, right? Spending, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week doing something that you don't want to do is absolutely miserable. So I think every service member should lean into who they are and what they enjoy, okay? Once you figure that out, then you can do some keyword searches. You can start looking for opportunities circled around the things that you want to do. If you're uncertain as to what you want to do, there are a lot of career assessments out there. I think the big one that that service members receive in their TAP class is mynextmove.org.
Yes.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's like a short 60-question assessment. Kind of asks you, how much do you enjoy building cabinets? How much do you enjoy, working with children? Right. Stuff like that. And basically, it spits back at you the types of industries and maybe even job families and job profiles that you may be interested in doing. So if you don't really know what you want to do, taking a career assessment like mynextmove.org is going to be tremendous in helping you figure out what actually is going to make you happy. And then I want you to go all into that, right? Go after those SkillBridge opportunities. Go after those companies that have the ability to offer you the kind of training opportunities that are circled around, positions that are going to make you happy.
What's great about that website as well is not only does it tell you what your attributes are through the interest profiler, generates Holland codes. And if anybody's interested in, behavioral psychology and organizational psychology, then you can go ahead and Google Holland codes. But long story short, it gives you a profile of yourself and then recommended jobs, and has links to information about what the outlook is for that profession in a particular area, and even what the mean salary expectations are. So mynextmove.org, a fantastic free of charge resource for all those TAP folks out there. Now, let's say, for example, they do that. They do their interest profiler. They say, okay, I think I've decided what direction I want to take my career in. I got a general idea what I want to be doing. Where does the service member start to look to try to find the opportunities that align with their transition goals, to help them be successful on that right-hand side of the the DD 214?
Sure. So so before they even start applying for opportunities, I think the best thing for them to do is start networking and connecting with companies and those company representatives to learn more about the job that they want to do, right? Because SkillBridge is a train to hire program. Service members aren't supposed to be qualified for the positions that they're getting trained on through SkillBridge. So finding out those companies who are approved, who may be able to offer you the kind of opportunities, start connecting with those program managers for those companies. And then also, I suggest reaching out to those people that already work for that company who do the job that you want to do. The best way for somebody to learn a job is by putting their hands on it and doing it. At this point, service members aren't ready to do that, right? That's not in their timeline, right? So the next best thing is to hold informational interviews. Yep. If you want to be a system administrator with a defense contracting company, get a hold of all the defense contracting company, system administrators, and there's a lot, right? Learn what a day in the life is like for them. A system administrator for GDIT is going to do the job a little bit differently than a system administrator from, Lockheed Martin or any other, defense contracting company. Learn about what a day in the life looks like for that person, and then ask them, what are the highlights about your job? What do you love about your job, right? What keeps you going? But the highlights aren't really what people worry about, right? It's the stuff that you don't want to do, right? It's every job has some level of suck to it, right? And so you've really got to find out what are the things that you're unhappy about with your job. What do you not like about the company, right? company culture matters. Finding
Yes.
the right job with the wrong company is just going to lead you to start searching for jobs very shortly after you cross that blue line for the last time.
And no amount of money is going to make up for the fact that every Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 or whatever shift you work, you're absolutely miserable. You can put $1 million on the table, and if you're absolutely miserable, you're just rich and miserable. You're still miserable.
Exactly. Chasing your happiness for both what you want to do and the company you want to do it for is very important.
Awesome. Okay. So now let's assume that we've found some opportunities. All right. We've gone to different resources. We've checked out your community of practice. Maybe we've checked on 50 Strong. Maybe we've been to the DOD SkillBridge website and we've gone through their database. Maybe we've looked at opportunities in a number of different areas and we found it. We've hit on 3 or 4 or 5 that we think might be the right opportunity. What's the process? How do we get from A to B to C and on to success?
Yeah, so now all the branches are aligned with the DoD as far as finding the opportunity first, and then filing with your transition office. Your SkillBridge paperwork. Each branch has their own SkillBridge process, so the Navy process looks different from the Air Force process. When you're ready to apply, I suggest casting a wide net and applying to all of the opportunities, all of the organizations at the same time. A service member's transition timeline is not my timeline. Okay, I may have an opportunity that I want to fill for something, but I may have 2 to 3 months to fill that opportunity to ensure that we get the best candidate in the door. Whereas your timeline, you may be at your 8-month window and you're looking for an opportunity to be solidified in the next couple of weeks. So because your transition timeline is not my timeline, you don't know if I'm on vacation, right? So if you're sitting at home, if you email me only and I'm on vacation for the next 2 to 3 weeks, you're sitting at home hoping and waiting for me to call you. Meanwhile, you're just wasting time, right? You could be connecting and applying with other companies. So I suggest casting that wide net. Apply to all of the opportunities, all of the companies at the same time that you're interested in. So that way you're not putting all of your eggs into one company's basket. Okay?
They say, if you wait to the last minute, it only takes a minute. Not in this case. The process takes as long as it takes. And there is no hurry up and make up for lost time. So I get it. Cast a wide net, look at multiple different opportunities, get out there early. What else, Dave?
There are some companies who I know they build their sourcing team off of, or they schedule their sourcing team to just look at what is their immediate fill, right? What do they need help with, or what do they want to offer opportunities for? And I know other companies that strictly process SkillBridge applications based on the service member's availability date. So if you're applying, a year out or so, your application is going to sit there and collect dust for 6 to 8 months or so. So that's why it's really important to cast that wide net. So that way, if your number 1 falls through, maybe your 2, 3, and 4 will come through for you. And that keeps service members in the driver's seat, right? It allows you to control your fate. It allows you to control your future. Applying to one opportunity will only ever allow you one opportunity. You'll only have one opportunity available. But if you apply to 10 places, maybe 7 of those companies call you back, and maybe 4 of them offer you an opportunity. And that allows you to choose which opportunities are best for you and your family.
Yeah, and that makes sense. It's almost like applying to different universities. If you're a high school senior, you don't just run out and send an application to Yale and cross your fingers. You need to apply to multiple different locations and increase your likelihood of success. I love it. So
can I
you said
touch a little bit more on the application part?
Yeah, please do.
So the way most recruiters work, right? So any position that requires a secret clearance or less, most recruiters aren't looking any further than 90 days in advance. So if you're able to do a 6-month SkillBridge opportunity, right about your 9-month mark from transition is when you want to start applying to these opportunities, right? There are some companies who won't talk to you until you're inside your window, which is kind of unfortunate. But knowing when it's appropriate to apply is going to be important as well. So secret clearance positions or lower, right about your 9-month mark is a sweet spot for you to apply. For those positions that require a TSSCI or higher, especially those that are either supporting or working directly with those 3-letter intel agencies, those intel agencies don't recognize DoD clearances. So they have to run their own background check on the service member. And that's not an overnight thing. It's not just looking in, Scatter Castles or DIS or, one of those programs to say, yep, service member has that clearance that we need. it's a full background investigation that's going to take 2 to 4 months. So because that length of time needs to be built in prior, I believe it should be built in prior to you starting SkillBridge. You're going to want to apply 4 to 6 months before you're able to start SkillBridge. So that way the background investigation can happen and you're not bleeding into your SkillBridge time, which is taking away from the amount of training the company can offer you.
Yeah, and I would also say, keep in mind that if you've got questions, you've got concerns, you don't completely understand how these processes work. Most of your installations, you've got a SkillBridge coordinator of some sort, some subject matter expert on the installation, on the Navy base, on the Air base, usually associated with either your education office or your TAP program office, to get in there and answer those questions, ask the questions, because there's a lot of misinformation out there. I've asked folks applying for my program, why didn't you apply earlier? They said, oh, so-and-so told me I couldn't apply until I was 180 days out.
I like that.
Yeah.
And thank you for bringing that up. I want to touch on that. The application, there's 2 different applications, right? So there's the application with the company. Service members can apply with whatever company they want, whenever they want. That's not dictated by any instruction. Service members can apply to companies whenever they want. The other application that is dictated by military instruction are when you can apply with your transition office. So each branch, again, runs their process differently. So I encourage you to reach out to your SFL TAP office, education office, whomever. So you can actually apply with a company a year out and then maybe not apply with your local education or TAP office until you're 6 months out or 8 months out or something like that. So there's 2 different applications. One, you've got to get your application approved by your chain of command, but then the other application is actually with the company.
Yeah, and I find, like you said, the different services do it a little differently. Air Force, in my experience, is very fast. Navy, a little bit slower. Army, ridiculously slow. And I have not had any personal experience yet with the Coast Guard, which just issued its first instruction this year, February of 2022. The Coast Guard instructions just came out. And I also don't have any personal experience with how the Marine Corps is doing that. Any insight into those 2 branches?
So the Marine Corps' instruction, if a Marine Corps commanding officer is unfamiliar with the Marine Corps instruction, service members are supposed to go through their TRS office. But if the Marine Corps commanding officer doesn't know that, service members have the ability to circumvent the TRS office and work directly with their commanding officer. That can pose some problems because the TRS office is there in place to help ensure the service member is eligible. All the package is written up and presented well to the commanding officer. All kind of the lower level things that COs maybe don't want to do or shouldn't have to do are done by the TRS office to ensure that the opportunity is one that is going to benefit the service member, and one that's in compliance with all instructions. So I have seen some differences between how Marines get approval. And that's because it may not be understood how the service member needs to do it. The Air Force and the Army, their process is very streamlined. Rinse and repeat, junior, senior, overseas, CONUS, enlisted officer, doesn't matter. All service members go through the same process with both of those branches. And the Navy just has to reach out to their commanding officer, right? There's a new instruction for the Navy. They have to register with the Navy SkillBridge team to show intent to do SkillBridge. Then they go find their SkillBridge opportunity, and then they submit their paperwork for final approval once they have their SkillBridge opportunity finalized. Yeah,
I have had Navy candidates come in and say, hey, I'm already approved. And I'm like, okay, that's leaning forward. That's getting the chain of command issue out of the way ahead of time, which is smart. Comment from Ryan Smart, who's watching us. So doing SkillBridge doesn't mean you will get hired. And I think he's tapping the tip of an iceberg here. High likelihood of employment as a result, but not 100%.
Yeah, that's correct. And I think that's a very pointed question that a service member should ask a company POC, right? How many service members have you brought on for SkillBridge opportunities? Let's say this year, right? It's October. And then how many of them have you hired? And you're going to get a really good sense of their commitment to the program and their understanding of the program. If they brought on 40 and they've hired 10, you may want to pull the thread and ask what happened to the other 30 people, right? Because like you said, there needs to be a high likelihood of follow-on employment. So if a company is just bringing on service members for opportunities, but they're not hiring many of them, what's happening with what's that?
They're getting free labor.
They're getting free labor. But there is another way for a company to operate the program correctly in the eyes of the DOD. If they're bringing on service members, training them, and then helping them get jobs immediately with another company, then that's fine. That's allowed by DOD standards, right? But you want to get that answer from the company. If the company is bringing on a lot of service members and they're only hiring a few, and they say, oh yeah, just 30 people didn't work out, well then maybe it's not the service members who didn't work out. Maybe it's the company who's not working out, right? Maybe they're executing this program outside of the SkillBridge program guidelines, right? So definitely get that information from the company ahead of time.
All right, so guys out there, guys and gals out there who are taking notes, write this down. Ask the question, what is your employment solution? How do you arrive at an employment solution for your interns? Ask that during your interview. It could mean the difference between the wasting and optimizing the use of 6 months of your time. As we begin to slide into the, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's see if we have any other questions. All right, here's a good question here. Would a simple unprompted email showing interest be enough? How much is too much in your ask? I think he's asking, the best way to introduce yourself to a company that has a program like this.
Yeah, so if you're interested in an already approved company and you're reaching out to the company's SkillBridge POC, then yeah, you could just say something like, good afternoon. I'll be retiring or separating from the Army, Navy, in 6 months, 12 months. Very interested in your SkillBridge opportunities circled around project management, cyber security, logistics, right? Wondering if I can learn more about your program. If you're reaching out to the company program lead, then that would be an appropriate email. One of the worst things that a service member can do is reach out to somebody who's not the program lead or a company representative of a company who is not approved and say the word SkillBridge. If you say SkillBridge to a company who is not approved or to somebody who doesn't know what SkillBridge is, you're likely going to get ghosted. And I hate to say this, but there are folks out there that they're just not going to do their homework, right? So you put some cool new term in front of them like SkillBridge, they're not going to go Google it and find out what it is, right? So if you're reaching out to companies who are not SkillBridge approved, or you're reaching out to folks who are not SkillBridge POCs, say that you've been approved to participate in a fully funded fellowship program.
I like it.
Everybody knows what a fully funded fellowship program is, right? You want to generate interest, right? You don't want to put some kind of communication barrier between you and them. They should reach back to you with, you've been approved to participate in this fully funded fellowship program. What program is this? Once you generate interest with them, then you can say SkillBridge, right? Then you can teach them about SkillBridge. So when you're reaching out to folks, just be, direct. This is who I am. This is my timeline. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm interested in learning about your company. Can we discuss more about it?
When they say try before you buy, when it comes to SkillBridge, for many companies that have never heard of this program but may have an interest in applicant Dave Schantz, this may be a try before you buy opportunity for them as a part of their hiring process.
Absolutely. And so SkillBridge is very administratively intensive from a company standpoint. And one of the things that the DOD allows is every DOD approved organization has the ability to act like a middleman. So an approved organization has the ability to facilitate SkillBridge opportunities for other companies that are not SkillBridge approved. And that's one of the best ways that the program grows, especially as the administrative process on the front end gets lengthier as interest grows with companies emailing the SkillBridge program office.
Yeah, I think they call that the third-party provider. Is that the term?
Third-party provider, yeah. So one of the more popular ones is Hiring Our Heroes, right? So Hiring Our Heroes is an arm of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. On paper, some service members are doing their SkillBridge opportunities with Hiring Our Heroes. Physically, nobody's doing it with Hiring Our Heroes. They're all being placed with other organizations. And so every organization that's approved by the DOD has the ability to facilitate or be a third-party provider for other companies, for service members.
In my company, RecruitMilitary, for example, we fall into a different category. All of our interns intern with us as a part of our staff and a part of our recruiting operations team. So our candidate success program is brought on now. Well, I think right now we have 12 or 13 interns on staff, and it's going really great so far this year. And a different example, we don't farm our interns out to other companies. We work with them and work on their success in-house.
Excellent. Sounds good.
All right. Now, if you had some tips or some lessons learned that you wanted to pass on What might you tell somebody?
Oh, something that I unfortunately get quite a bit is service members saying, depending on their timeline, especially those that are close to transitioning out, I'm willing to do anything, anywhere.
Yeah.
Most companies can't help you, right? You've got to figure out, you've got to narrow down what makes you happy, right? What do you want to do and where you want to live? That's really the best place for a service member to begin their SkillBridge journey. Once you figure that out, that's when you can cast that wide net across all those companies and start learning about those opportunities. But having self-awareness about who you are and what makes you happy has got to be step one for everybody.
Yeah, no, there's no hiring managers out there listing a job description with the title multifaceted jack of all trades who builds strong teams.
Yeah, exactly. When companies learn about SkillBridge and they start figuring out how they're going to utilize it, majority of companies start to make their already existing opportunities available for SkillBridge. So it's going to be a specific job description. My company, I have some teams that run round robins. So it'll be like IT structured, right? Or cyber structured, right? So it'll be a bunch of different job profiles that will expose the service member to, that all have a high likelihood of follow-on employment. Just kind of exposing the service member to all things IT in that area, making them a more well-rounded employee. And then at the end, we'll say, okay, so we have these opportunities available. We've shown you those,
Right.
which do you want? So, offering round robins, as long as they're circled around, high likelihood of follow-on employment, those are going to be very beneficial for both the member and the company.
Plus, when you're moving from different parts of the company, you're getting a real taste, a real flavor of that company culture, not just one person at one desk that you've been shadowing for 6 months.
Exactly. Yeah. So just like I said earlier, system administrator from one company is not going to do the same job as a system administrator from another company, right? It's always going to look different. Take job descriptions, you put them side by side, they always read differently. Yeah, that's why informational interviews on the front end, right? Learning what a day in the life is like of that person, of that kind of employee is important. And then also, casting that wide net and applying to all the organizations, all the opportunities around the same time that you're still interested in after you've learned about them.
All right. So I think a good takeaway is, treat this as seriously as you would a job interview for pay.
Oh, absolutely. Pay. Yeah, so pay is really really important, right? And service members, I see, they don't normally do their due diligence as to finding out how much they're worth in the civilian sector. I've got some unfortunately every E5 who's a urinalysis program coordinator for their unit thinks that they're a program manager, right? And there's a vast difference between military program management and civilian program management. Military program management, you could be that urinalysis coordinator and be called a program manager. In the civilian sector, a program manager is very senior. They usually have several project managers who are working for them, who report directly to them. It's a much more senior level position. Thus, the pay is going to be different. I like to use the website salary.com. You don't need a login for it. It's very easy to use. You input two pieces of information. One is the job title, and the second is going to be the location. And what it's going to do is it's going to spit back three numbers at you. On the left side is going to be the low number. So all those people that aren't very educated, have a lot of time or experience or certifications in that job and what they're getting paid. And on the right side is going to be the high number, and all the people that are doing that job that are very well educated, they have a lot of certifications, and they have a lot of experience in what they're getting paid. Yep. And then there's a number in the middle, right? That's the average. So I think service members need to do their due diligence. A lot of service members think that because they have a top secret clearance or higher, that automatically, means that they're going to get a six-figure job. That's not the case either. I could show you, jobs that require higher than a top secret clearance that are going to pay $50,000 or $60,000 simply because of the job. It's like laying cables, or it's something very it's like a step up from McDonald's worker. You know what I'm saying? But it doesn't really take much aptitude to do the job. You just have to be a good person and possess the clearance. So having that high clearance doesn't necessarily equate to a six-figure job.
All right. So do your research. Don't spend 3 or 6 months in a SkillBridge opportunity and then put in your full-time application just to find out that this company or this opportunity is not going to meet your compensation expectations. All great advice, Dave. As we slide into the end of the show, if there's somebody out there who wants to reach out and hear more from you, learn more about SkillBridge from you, how can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. Reach out to me on LinkedIn, DOD or Dave Schantz, just on LinkedIn. And also, if you are a service member, please reach out and join the DOD SkillBridge Community of Practice LinkedIn group. We have hundreds of SkillBridge managers in that group offering opportunities all the time. That's all we talk about in the group is SkillBridge. Like I said, there are other transitioning programs, and I think that they're all very widely beneficial. But all we talk about in the group is SkillBridge. So if you want to learn about SkillBridge, you want to meet program managers, you want to see what kind of opportunities are out there, you're going to find a lot of new opportunities. There are some places where opportunities are listed. They may be old or already filled. Managers are very quick to first post their new opportunities, but sometimes they forget to take those opportunities down once those opportunities are filled. So the SkillBridge group is a great place for you to find the newest opportunities.
Great. And you can reach out to me as well as a program manager myself. You can find out information about our DOD SkillBridge program opportunities, as well as opportunities with 16,000 employers nationwide. As of today, over 400,000 opportunities can be found at www.recruitmilitary.com. Recruit Military is on a mission to help veterans, transitioning service members, and mil spouses find meaningful opportunities. So swing on by our website. Dave, on behalf of Recruit Military and the folks that joined us today, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, and folks, be sure to tune in next week when we talk to George Randall, retired Army officer, executive level recruiter, and accomplished author. He's going to be talking to us about how to take your interview success to a whole nother level of excellence. This guy is smart, and I know a lot of smart people. This guy is scary smart. You don't want to miss him. Until next time, this has been Lucas Connolly for Recruit Military. Good luck and Godspeed. Dave,